What's up, everybody? It's another day in the Ideal Auto Factory. I'm at work, it's lunchtime, and today we're going to be going over the Yokomo gear diff, or gear diffs in general, as it pertains to rear-wheel drive RC drifting. It's my favorite diff, and I just want to go in depth on what it actually does and how it works when you're driving. So let's keep God first. Let's get into this video. Here is my overdose gone V2 Plus with the R-Spec MFG chassis, the rear cantilever suspension, and in there, all the way in there, is a differential. The differential I have is a gear differential. Now, the ball diff video was one thing. I'm trying to do better on this video, so we're going to get into it a lot more personally. It's very easy to spin, almost zero resistance, and that's because of how I have it set up. Now, let's get into what exactly a gear diff is. There is a Yokomo gear diff in its packaging. Let's open it up, take out the contents, so we can get to know what exactly a gear diff is. If you notice, this one is a little different because it says high capacity, but most of them will be a regular gear diff with normal capacity. So you have your left and right sides here. What goes in there are these spider gears. You got these two that go, got one that goes here and one that goes here in the other cap. And from there you have these which go on the sides. So you have one on this side, one over here, one on this side, and one on the other. And when you drop those in, they all connect to that bottom gear, and also this top gear, like that. So you can see it all can mesh together. And then from there, take our fine axle cups. Got one right there that'll go right through here. This can now be connected like that. When you set it up right, the axle cup is connected to the spider gear. And then when you put it all together, it all rotates. So when you spin the gear, everything rotates. You can hear it in there a little bit too. So diff spins fine. And all the washers and everything shims everything up. And you have O-rings to seal this up here. This side here. You have an O-ring that you can put in there because sometimes you can put fluid in there to change the amount of resistance in those spider gears. You even have people that'll take two of these out and just run 2 spider gears instead of 4 in order to get a different kind of performance out of their gear diff. Now that the basics of a gear diff, how it's assembled essentially, or how it works, is out of the way, pretty much once you have assembled a gear diff, you now can tune it. It's tunable by way of diff weight and the amount of spider gears you put in there. You always have to have the 2 main ones that are connected to the axle cups, but you don't have to have 4 in there. You can put 2 in there, or you can have 4. Sometimes that will affect the way the vehicle like locks up or whatever when you're on the throttle. But long story short, the gear diff is tunable, and it has 4 spider gears, and you have to have the 2 planetary spider gears in there that are connected to the axle cups. All right, back to this, because that was a bunch of repeated, I don't even know what to call it. Now that we understand that this is inside of here, I have mine set up with 2 2 spider gears instead of 4, and also no oil, or should I say no fluid to fill it up. You can fill this up with fluid to change the way it moves, but I left to just have mine lubed, kind of like a CLSD with no lube in it. So back here, 2 planetary gears and almost no fluid at all, just enough to make sure that metal to metal contact isn't going to shear anything. So let's see what the Diff Analyzer has to say about it. Now remember, the Diff Analyzer is set up as just an arbitrary number, so we can figure out what in the world is going on in here. So you get a 75 when it's open, nothing in it, and let's put a screw on there. $84. 80. Almost 0 resistance. Then when I hold that one, you can see that spur gear is spinning. And we are at 109, 108. Let's move this to the other side. Got that 77 now. 74. Got 64. 71. Let's see what happens over here now that we're that low. See if we get that same number. Yeah, just about 68, 70. And then when we hold, same thing, spur gear spinning, and we're at about 100. So definitely a lot less resistance in here. And it goes back to normal. I guess it is now time to take this thing onto the wonderful lunch break track and see what we can come up with, doing small radius circles, doing full radius circles, and then of course the all-important live action view of the rear. When we put that weight on it, let's see what we get. All right, so right now, as you can see, very low throttle here. Here's my throttle, and I'm going to just apply 10%, somewhere around there, throttle. And I'm going to see what happens going in a circle. That inside wheel is not moving at all, which means I can turn in a complete radius in reverse, but the outside wheel spins. No matter how fast, I can go even faster. See what throttle percentage is at now. About 20%. I can go pretty fast. That just shows to show you how open it is. All right, now it's starting to spin. Barely. That's how open it is. Not anything to really measure, it's just to show you that that inside wheel is actually not spinning and the outside wheel is. Now here's the gear diff. Gonna go ahead and pull that trigger and watch one of them spin. Didn't do anything. At about 15% throttle. 15% throttle. That first one still hasn't spun yet. It wants to spin. But now, I can go as fast as I want. Nothing's happening. But watch this. When I blip the throttle, look at that. And I can stay in it. If I come back down, now it wants to bring it into action. That right one spins all the time. The left one doesn't really want to spin. Slowly catching on. Now they're both spinning. Good. And now they're both in action. So this wheel can get stuck sometimes, long story short. Now let's see what happens when I put some weight on it. Look at that, automatically stops. And I'm not putting a lot. You can see my suspension move right here. I'm not putting a lot of weight on that. Now we push more, almost full flex there. No matter what I'm doing. There we go. Let's try the other side. Now, got to push it really far down for that side to want to stick. It doesn't take a lot. And if I go in here and I start shifting my weight easily, it stops, but it'll come back. It takes a lot more to stop it when you're at a higher speed. But that's the diff. This diff is very loose, open. Now look, that right side wants to get stuck now. Look at that. So one of the great things I like about the gear diff over the ball diff is that in these situations, there's only one thing that can happen. Either you unlock it, or should I say you lock the diff by blipping the throttle, or it's loose. There's no in between, there's no variables. No matter what throttle position I'm at, all the way up to 100, it doesn't matter. It's going to continue to be open until I blip the throttle. Blipping the throttle is the only thing that locks this diff up. Not high RPMs, not low RPMs, nothing in between. Just blipping the throttle is what locks it up. And it's actually responsive to lighter cars. So if your car is really light, a ball diff may turn into a lock diff on you really quick because there's not enough weight to push down. Push down on the diff to make this wheel stop. Same thing on that side. Let's see if it'll, yeah. So you got both sides that can easily, I mean, look at my suspension, man. I'm barely pushing it down, and it wants to stop. In this situation, the ball diff is very, it's tighter. It has more resistance. Therefore, it wants to stay locked up. and gives you a consistent feel, but is it open enough like this is for you to do what you need to do? This is open so much that very little weight transfer can lock or stop one wheel from moving and give you the performance you need to go around the corner. But all of that, you know, it's all subjective until you actually drive your car, which is what it's time to do now.